the third meetup of a series about design tokens. And this one is about collaboration between designer, developer, and also stakeholders. And we are very glad to have The Fork and Supernova with us tonight. Yeah. Just a quick recap. The first meetup, it was with Specify and Carrefour, and we announced that we wrote a book with Ismail, the design token book. The second one, it was with Token Studio and France TV. And we announced that all the workshop in the book were also available on Figjam. And tonight it's Supernova with Taylor. He will present himself just after, and The Fork with a part of some of the team. And we'll come back in September with the Open Classroom and Scaleway. And yeah, tonight's program will talk about a very quick presentation of not the design token book, but of the website and some insight. Then Taylor will present Supernova, and then the most important, we will have a small presentation of The Fork and then a panel. So it will be an open discussion between the Fork team and Taylor. And yeah,
so we can begin with the presentation of the speakers.
We're gonna you can use.
Hello.
You have no mic there, so you don't need the mic.
Okay, so hello everybody. I'm Margot, and I'm DesignOps Manager. I'm working for From Guys, and I'm in a mission for The Fork since more than 1 year now.
And on my side, I'm Thomas, so nice to meet you. I'm working at The Fork since last year, maybe a little bit more, as a senior system designer. So I'm working on the design system for the design part.
And I'm Julian, working at The Fork since a bit more than 6 years now. Used to be front-end developer. I'm now the engineering manager of the design system team, and I'm pushing design system at The Fork for roughly 4 or 5 years. So I will gladly explain how we actually achieve this.
And hello everyone, my name is Taylor. I'm the head of sales at Supernova. So we're one of the leading design system platforms, and we will talk a little bit about that later. I joined Supernova about 6 months ago, so I'm still relatively new to the company, but I've spent the majority of my career in the design software space. So if any of the designers in the room remember InVision, we'll give a rest in peace. But I spent 4 years at InVision, was part of their design system manager launch, and so I'm very familiar with the space. But good to meet everybody.
And Ismail Amila, design system manager and freelance and co-author of the design system book that you already saw 3 times. And
I'm Adrien Gibrat. I'm a front-end developer. I work at Front Guys. It's a consultancy agency that exists since 5 years, and we do product design, UX research, design system, design ops, and front-end development. And first, I just want to talk about the design token website. We have done a small website that you can reach mainly from the book. From the book, there are QR codes everywhere in the book, and you can access some pages with resources, links about the illustration, the source of some graphic, the source of some article, some video, a lot of different resources. This is only the page that show you all the pages with a lot of links, and you can filter them with the name of the chapter or the part of the book. But the main usage is to use from the book, the PDF, there are links that send you to the website. And from the paper one, you can scan the QR code and go there. It's a lot of resources, and we designed it to be open, and you can add some links and resources. I will talk about that just after. When we announced that there were a lot of workshops too, you can find all the workshops, 5 strategic workshops, 4 operational workshops, 3 about getting deeper in the usage and adoption of design token, and 1 small bonus workshop that is only on paper. But you can find all the workshops on the website too, so it's easier to find them and have more information about them. And recently I've added a page with all the MeetUp. You can find the replay. You can find all the links that we talked about during the MeetUp. And you also can find the slides. I'm still reaching some of the intervenants to get all the slides, but in the end, they all will be there, I hope. And also you can find all the quotes and insight that are in the book. There are a lot of different insight and some are very inspirational and interesting.
Yeah, we had some super verbatims from James Nash, from Brad Frost, from
Ben
Callahan, many great people.
And each time it's a question and the answer, so you can find which question you want to find answer for. There is a last part that is it's ready, but we are still waiting for the authorization of all the people that have made some use case of the design token. The use case, you can find them in the book, but I want to have their approval and validation before pushing them online. So the content is ready, and it will be released very soon. And about the participation on this website. This website is a simple GitHub repository, and all the content is simple Markdown. So if you want to add some resources, you have 2 options. You can just open an issue and in the title say, okay, this resources is very interesting, and add the link and whatever, and we will add it to the website in the good section. Or you can open a pull request, and it's very simple. Opening an issue on GitHub looks like that for some designer that never go there, but it's very simple. And Markdown, it's a bit more complicated, but it's a simple text file, and you can even use the online editor of GitHub, so it's very, very simple to use. And next, right now the website does not have any homepage because it was mainly main goal was to be accessed from the book. But now there is more content. This summer I will work on a homepage to navigate through that. And the last information I can give you is that we plan to do some translation of the book and of the website for 2025. So next year it will be also in English.
So that's our announcement today, because each event we had an announcement, and so today it's that. So as today is a moderated panel, we thought it would be interesting to give you some initial questions, to reflect on the good question to ask ourselves before going into the design token subject. So, the first is why. What are the expected outcomes and the ROI, so return of investment, from the investment that we did on the design token job? So, the first, on each project and digital project, but each project we have to start with the why, as Simon Sinek said so many times. So here is the why of the design tokens. And then, is it adapted to the size and scale of our team and our company? So is it best suited for a large-scale digital product? Is it a less scale, we don't say less scale, a small scale digital product? So you have to ask yourself, is it for a big project, a small project, or a small project that is gonna scale? So think about the future. And what is the scope? The scope. Is it for one brand, many brand, one device, many device, the technological environment, and how many modes and themes you're gonna develop, you're gonna have on the scope of your design tokens? Is your organization is ready? Does your organization, has the right culture, the right mindset? Do you have a big effort to put on some change management to push the culture further and to push that interdisciplinary work? Is it something that you have to put some effort on? And so, who can help to convince? How are you gonna put that subject on the table? Who will be the stakeholders? Who will be your advocates and your ambassadors? And who will be a rock in your shoes, a pain in the ass, that is not gonna let you work and not gonna let you really put the right time and the right effort with the right people? And how to organize the governance? How can you clarify the ownership and ensure regular feedbacks? Will you take the same governance that you have for the design system? Do you need something else? Do you need to put the marketing team into the conversation, as design tokens begin with the foundation and the marketing team is the owner of the foundations? Will there be a pain in the ass too? Good question. We'll see, we'll know. And which process do you have to put in? Process do you have to put in your organization? What is the organization of the team, the tooling? How do you communicate inside the design token or design system team? And how will you communicate with the people who will consume the design tokens and your stakeholders? And here is, again, a QR code if you want to buy the book on Amazon. No, nobody...
They already have it.
And so, I let you the stage, Taylor.
Perfect. So, first of all, super happy to be here. I came over, I'm based in Amsterdam, so always looking for reasons to come visit Paris. And so I want to talk a little bit about Supernova, who we are, where we fit into the market. And I wanted to start by just showing a quick video that just shows what we're capable of and kind of what we're all about. So first of all, I dare you to find a more dramatic promo video for a design system provider. But when I talk about Supernova, the way I like to frame it, especially to prospects or companies that may be looking at using a design system provider to facilitate building a design system, is it's kind of a series of hurdles. And the first hurdle is kind of deeply understanding and coming to terms with the fact that digital products are difficult to build. So the process is extremely slow, it's expensive, and the bigger you grow, the more inefficient it becomes. And what I see a lot with companies that haven't started their design system journey is there's a level of complacency that it's like, yeah, well, it's just part of building products. It sucks, and it's super hard, and it's super inefficient. But the reality is there are a myriad of ways to improve this process and make it a lot easier. And that's where the design system as a concept comes in. So I'm not going to explain what a design system is to this audience. I'll spare you. But this brings up the next hurdle, which is what do we do to build our design system? The first option is to build it yourself. And a lot of companies will look at design systems like Google's Material or Shopify's design system or Spotify's design system as these kind of gold star design systems to emulate. And yes, that is true, but the reality is that 99.9% of companies that we talk to every day are not prepared for that particular journey. That it is extremely hard to implement, it takes a ton of time, a ton of resources, it's expensive, and probably the hardest part about this journey in particular is that you accrue never-ending tech debt. That every time there's any change to any other internal platform or Figma or anything, all of your developers have to basically refactor your internal design system to then support all that sort of stuff. So the other option is to go with a design system provider. And if you look at the design system provider market, I'm not going to name any names, but there's kind of two general philosophies amongst our competitors. And I like to describe it this way. So you have design on the left, development on the right. And some design system providers kind of treat it like a design system for developers. So they're very firmly on the right side of the spectrum, meaning that they're really good at exporting code, they provide a lot of value to developers, but don't have some of the basics that designers need around managing a token or variable architecture, building documentation, some of the stuff that, yes, the code is really nice, but you also need kind of this basic foundational stuff. On the left side, you have design systems for designers. So idea being that you can manage your tokens really well, you can create good documentation, but there's no way to really involve your developers outside of them just viewing documentation. And our whole philosophy is that design systems only work when you can bridge that gap and kind of sit in the middle there. Meaning that I kind of describe it as like a feedback flywheel in the sense that your designers create a design system, a V1, developers start using it, they get a lot of value out of it, they then start providing feedback to your design team, which then reinforces the design team's need to continually maintain and update it, improves adoption, and then you end up with a really nice design system that everyone gets value out of. Whereas too many design systems I've seen, especially ones that sit on the left side, design gets really excited, they build it out, it's really cool, but then developers don't see enough value from it, so they don't provide that feedback, they don't kind of get involved in the process, and then in a couple years you have a design system that no one is using. So our whole philosophy here is basically combining three pillars, which are 1, token and component management, 2, documentation, and then 3, code export. So basically the ability in Supernova to take all that design data, translate it into a variety of code frameworks, and deliver it directly as usable code to your development team. So just to talk a little bit about some of our customers and who we work with right now. The really nice thing about Supernova is that really, if you have designers and if you have developers and you're building something, there's going to be something that we can help with. And so you'll see some very agile, smaller, forward-thinking companies like Trustpilot that use Supernova, all the way up to financial institutions like BTG Pactual, to huge conglomerates like AB InBev, Kraft Heinz, Paramount. So really, the design system, as we all know, can mean a lot of things, but Supernova can kind of support a very simple design system all the way to some of the most complex in the world. And then lastly, I wanted to show something a little exciting. So this is something that will be coming out soon. This is a major project from our CEO in terms of being able to generate usable code and generate actual designs using AI. So I will play a quick video. So I will end there, but for anyone that's interested in learning more about Supernova or has any questions for me, feel free to find me after the event. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And in the book, we try to present all the tooling that exists about managing design token, and we didn't want to do some comparison of the feature because they are evolving very quick. But we've done some a metro map, and to show which one do documentation, token creation, token transformation to code, and so on. And Supernova was one of the metro line that go from A to Z. Other products tend to be very specialized in one part, and Supernova do all the required work to handle design tokens.
Till the transformation and parsing of the design tokens to some platform-specific code. So,
whatever you need, it covers a lot of the
range that you learned. And
okay, up to us now. Actually, we are using Supernova at the fork, definitely. That's also why we are here. But before, let me just present you the fork and just how many people know the fork or la fourchette? Oh, okay, cool, nice. Okay, so let me introduce a bit more fact about the fork. Just going quickly on that, we have a lot of restaurants in 12 countries, mostly in Europe, and a lot of data. And that's what we want to leverage, and I will speak a bit more about that in the future, like in a few minutes. Speaking about the fork, basically it's a French company, started with the co-author and an idea of actually the chef Alain Ducasse in 2006. So firstly a website in France, then expand, and we have been acquired by TripAdvisor in 2014. Then we grow even more, internationalization. We actually acquire some of all the competitors in other countries to grow, to have at some point a global scale, like we were in South America and also Australia, if I'm not mistaken. But now we want to actually strengthen our presence in Europe with a partnership with Michelin, and also introduce the digital payment. And that's basically what we want to focus on now. It's to fully embrace the digital future and actually leverage data for AI and a lot of stuff to make the digital product even better. And as you guessed, that's also why we want to build a design system in order to be able to scale faster and to have a better capacity of scaling also. Speaking about our application, basically, it's not just a B2C site. Actually, we have, because a lot of people know the Forks through the diner's experience, but we also have ERB, so it's a digital reservation system for restaurants, which actually handle quite more things than that. So we have a B2C part, a B2B part, and also as a lot of companies, some internal tools. Why I've putting internal here, it's because the design system serves actually the B2C part, the B2B one, but also in the future internal one. And as Ismail was saying, also the marketing, that we have a plan not just to reduce ourselves to the engineering side. And the interesting thing also is that we do not have only one technology. Is actually we have iOS, Android, React, and lately React Native in our B2B side. So building a design system for the challenges of B2C, B2B, iOS, Android, React, and React Native is quite a challenge, but it's really fun. But as I said, it's not new. I think as most of the company, we had a technical component library at some point in the life of the company that's actually grow towards something that we later label as the UI kit. So it was actually the first time that designer and developer build something together. It was, I think, 4 years ago. And it was mainly done by the B2C for the B2C. As you can imagine, something built for a small part of the company by a small part of the company is really hard to extend and to scale. So the project then, lack of resources, is become a best effort project. And we clearly see a lack of ownership on that and clear governance. So at the end, we had a grassroots model, which is design system that is not really owned, contributed by a lot of persons. And we wanted to move that, and we had actually the push from the top management to actually transition towards something without ownership and without governance to a dedicated team. So I will present the team just after, but we have some people of the team also, Almo. And actually also to something more clear in terms of ownership, with a clear ownership on the library and the documentation and everything. And that's actually, the UI kit was called Chili, and we actually branded to make clear that it was not a new design system, it was actually a change from the UI kit to the design system, because as you, I guess, imagine, it's quite, sometimes people tend to mistake and just consider design system something with a document, a component, and that's it. But the reality is, it's way more complicated than that, and usually it's more about cultural changes, and that's what we face. And actually, Margot joined the project end of 2022. So with the help of Margot and Front guys, we really actually help us build the foundation of that in order to understand that it was not just create component, but it was actually support the culture shift from a UI kit to a design system. And yep, the team. So as you can see, we have not only designer and me. We also have. We wanted to build a team from the start, which actually have iOS and Android developers, but also React developers, to be able to spread every material of the design system toward all the technology. Because we do believe that in order to actually be able to scale and adopt the design system, people have to see value. And if from someone in the iOS part there is no other material and another part there is, it's quite difficult to follow. So we wanted to have a clear ownership and a clear governance where everything that is built has been propagated everywhere. But we tend to call our governance model the hybrid model, meaning we are the central team, we are a top-down design system, but we do believe that doing this in our ivory tower is not the right thing to do. So we want to actually bring people together and one of our strong value is we actually want to co-conceive the design system. So what we did is in the company, we actually ask and hire what we call heroes. And the heroes are people that are interested in design system, that want to build a design system, and that will actually propagate the goodwill and the good parole to everyone. So we are not the only one, and they are also a relay for us to understand what the user wants, because at the end of the day, the user are the people of the company, and the more we have relay with listening to the user, the better it is.
And if I may add something?
Yeah, sure.
A very important thing into hiring the heroes was to have people that were part of all the departments. So from the very beginning, we choose people from marketing, sales, trainings, and so on, to be sure that when we will be ready, the design system will be able to scale, and they are already aware of what we are doing. They were supposed to be our ears and eyes into the team, and this is thanks to them that we have been through the design system building.
Yep, and actually, we want, like I said, the UI kit was done by the B2C for the B2C, and we really have face a challenge when we wanted to migrate to the B2B. And that's exactly why also we hired the hero from every part of the company. It's, even if we are not focused on the B2C part, we wanted that since the beginning the B2B was in the discussion, so they actually build something that makes sense for them, even if we plan to adopt it in the future. And that's it for me.
Thank you.
Perfect. So let's move on to our panel discussion with our three great panelists. And so we'll also have a little bit of time at the end for Q&A, so be thinking of any questions that you do want to ask any of our panelists. But I want to start at kind of the highest level, and so this question is for you, Julien.
Yep.
Who does this design system Tasty? Who does it really serve, and how has that evolved over time from the beginning of first creating the V1 of the design system?
Yep, like I said, it serves the B2C. We have iterative adoption strategy. So the first idea is to serve the B2C. So we are focused on the B2C. Then we want to scale to the B2B part. And so this is the short term. And actually, we are starting to migrate to the B2B part. And also in the future, we actually discussing with the marketing to embed the marketing in the discussion to make sure that everything that we have built makes sense, and we want to spread it to the marketing in order for them to be to have faster capacity of building component and material. So this is mostly what we aim. So we have a strategy in multiple step, and the idea is to propagate from B2C, B2B, and then marketing.
And I guess follow-on question there. So as you kind of went on that journey to expand the scope and propagate to more people, what were some hurdles or an example of a hurdle that you had to overcome as we're trying to expand that scope for who uses the design system?
The first thing is to make sure that even if you're focusing on just a scope, to avoid and to bring people outside of the scope, to avoid to just build something for the scope, because you have to have a long-term vision. Even if in the day-to-day it's quite hard to take a step back but yeah, that was the first hurdle. And the second one is to actually for example, for the B2B, they were quite eager to have the design system, and they were really they pushed us. So I say I nodded. So yeah, they're quite eager to have the design system, and they really want us there. But it can be quite easy to just move too quick and then avoiding or taking shortcut that you will pay in a few months. So we wanted to making sure that the foundation was right. So that's what we did the past year. So setting up the governance, the ownership, the foundation, in order to have something, a base that makes sense, and we can scale on it. So then, based on that, so yes, last year we built the token and the type of foundation and the color, but we will discuss this more during our discussion. And after that, we want to build component and iterate on that, and making sure that when they are embedded in the loop, it makes sense for them.
Yep. And this next question is for you, Margot, but a pivotal step in building a design system that usually happens pretty early on is tokenizing your design decision making. So tell us a little bit about what gave the fork the push to do that, and what was the context to make that decision to really build out a token architecture?
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, we arrive with some, we can see it here. We have libraries with colors, but we had no meaning behind the colors. The first step was to help designers and developers to be guided into the choice of the color they are supposed to use, in which case to significate or be more intuitive. So the first part of the work was, I'm coming back to the question, no, don't do this slide. Just coming back to the good question to ask ourselves is that the company is sufficiently mature to manage it, to learn to work with it. And the fact was, the will was there, the envy, and the potential, the opportunity was there. So we began by doing some workshops to clarify the semantics workshop, to force, in a sense, the designer to ask themselves the good questions. Following this, we also rationalize, so it was pretty much more a work between the core team, but align ourselves about the naming convention, because we identified that there were some very rare usage. For example, something I never seen before was they used to name their color with a sizing t-shirt. Why not? But when it comes to scale, it was very hard. So we began also to think about that, think about the architecture of the token we could set up, and we came back to this to shift it after. And about the context, what's happening at that moment is that, as Julian said, in 2023, I guess, the marketing department decided to set up a new rebranding. It was a very good news for the fall because they needed, but how to say it? Let's say the product wasn't totally prepared for this.
Yeah.
And
if I can add, it will have been much easier if we have token propagated everywhere and we can swap the theme. That was not the case, but we actually jump on this in order to benefit from this exposure and the fact that we have resources to push for setting up the new foundation.
Yeah. Because the first ask from the brand was, okay, we will launch a rebranding in 2 months, so it would be very cool if, thanks to the design system, you can deploy it everywhere in the product. And we were like, okay, the governance is just setting up. We haven't ended the work on semantics and so on. Okay, let's work on it. Let's see what we can do. And fortunately, as we had the chance to have the core team very focused on it and budget and time allocated, we successfully managed some workshops during the summer, gathering all the heads of design on the product side and the leads, and Gab were there as well, and the heads of and the marketing. And so thanks to it, I will let the mic after to Thomas to deep dive a little more on that, but we had the huge work, but it was the why. It was a good opportunity. We understood that, okay, now we are, if we were still hesitating, what was not the case, now we have no choice. It's token or we cannot do anything.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good rebrand to force everyone's hand.
But it was a real good horse Treasure I never cheval de Troie. Yeah, in the end, because it also helped us a lot to consolidate the relationship with the brand in the end. It was the first step of a new way to collaborate with the product. So it's an opportunity.
Yeah,
it was an opportunity.
It was definitely an opportunity, and definitely.
And so it sounds like getting all these tokens, everything ready for the rebrand was a little bit of a sprint to get everything set up in time. So question over to you, Thomas, but how did you expand that token architecture from solely facilitating this rebrand to then applying to the entire product?
On our side, just for you to understand, we tried to create tokens not only for colors, but also for radius, spacing, and typo. And obviously, when the new brand appears, we have to manage the color first because it makes sense. We want our product linked to the brand we are spreading all over the world. So the marketing, the communication, the product was about these colors. But as you can see, it works well for videos like the one we shared before. It's not working so well when we are building some interfaces because we need more tint, more declination of this color. So the first things we did was to create multiple colors and test for all of them some contrast checking tool. Probably you already know it, but having some great contrast help for accessibility. So we did this exercise and provide these colors to our designers. And on their side, they had to use them to create some North Star version of the product, just to imagine what it could be after the brand, the new brand. Thanks to the usage they had of the color, we were able to create a list of tokens that seems make sense in our product and design culture. And it was, we challenged them to have a dark mode, so they have to provide some stuff in light and dark mode. So it was a great exercise, but we had not so much time, as Margot said. We had to do as we can. So we had the first version. And thanks to that, we were able to build some semantic colors. So now our colors have some meaning, and we were able to put it in a documentation or a tool to spread them to every designers.
Thomas?
Yeah.
May I add two little things?
On which side?
On this one.
Okay.
Just something we didn't say, but I think it's important. Obviously, we were into a rush, but the first thing is to talk about collaboration. One thing we dare to do with the brand is negotiate something, is first being very, very pedagogue with them, explaining them our work, how we are doing, explaining them why we can't use their more distinctive asset, which was the green pea, this one, because it's very fluorescent and we were not compliant with accessibility criteria. And so the first step was proposing them a kind of first batch that we set up a task force to allow them to spread their rebranding at the date they wanted and to have the minimum valuable significant colors that allow users to understand, okay, the brand have changed and I found them back into the product. But at this level, it wasn't tokens. This have allowed us to have like 6 months more to put the foundations close. So this was part of the negotiation. This was the first time the product there to say to the marketing, okay, we will do, but please stop. And let us work also as we need, because you have some needs, we have also, and just
basically it was an effort about colors and logos, everything related to the brand. But obviously we take the time behind to build our foundation as we wanted to do, to avoid to do it in a rush and miss some important steps.
So that's true. At some point, the design system team agreed to, okay, we just disfocus from the foundation for a while. We do the first batch, and after we will be a little more tranquil. That's all.
And just to talk a little about our architecture and how we built it. So first, we imagined to use the three-third part of tokens, so core, semantics, and components. Core are dedicated to having some, just naming some raw value. Semantics has a meaning behind, so like, I don't know, the alert background color, the alert foreground color, this kind of stuff, the notification color. And we thought about component colors because we had some inconsistency due to the past. And we wanted a way to say, okay, but on this component we will use another core color just because we have some specificities. But more we thought about it, more we consider having component tokens was a mistake because it creates too much tokens, and more you have tokens, the less it will be easier to search in it. So we decided to use mostly core and semantic on the design side and use what was before component tokens as a buffer for designers. If they didn't find the right colors, they can create their own local colors, and it will be for us like a debt tracker. Every time they are using a token that is not from Tasty, they have to list it in a library, and this way we have a way to discuss with them, understand what is the need behind, and find the right semantic to implement it in Tasty.
Yep. If I can add something on that, the initial idea was there is no discussion about core and semantic token, because I think everyone agrees on the need. We had quite a lot of discussion about, do we need component or not? Our first thought was, let's build an abstraction every time that we need something, even if it's to link a component to a semantic one. So we avoid creating a lot of semantic, because we will have this space, the component token space, where we can just create our own stuff, and they will be local to component of the design system. The problem with that is it was even, not just in the beginning, but quite in the future, it became a bit of a hassle to maintain. And also...
Yeah, we have like 200 tokens after a few months.
Yeah. So what we want to do actually is, we don't want a huge list of semantics, because we do believe that the more semantics you have, the more it's difficult to take the choices. So for the semantic, we want to make sure that semantics are actually solving a problem, and the problem are usually the foundation. So how do you talk in terms when you have an intent, in warning, error, or something like that? Or also, how do you handle the different level of information in your application? So if you actually base those foundations, designers are quite more able to just find the right information, because you help them just conceive the application with the token. So we shift that and just assume that component was a buffer space, or a place where they can create missing material, and for us, it will actually just be a warning that we need those kind of token if a lot of the similar token are bring to us, or also a way to track the date in terms of missing semantic token.
And just about the last part, it was about storing and documenting, because obviously we had, and I'm not talking only about the colors themselves or the radius and the spacing, but also about the methodology. So we document everything about how we built it. This way we can keep track about what we did, iterate on it if needed, and also explain it to designers, engineers, and marketers, etc. Because it's quite new, and it's definitely a cultural change. People will have to search for semantics or core depending on the usage, and it will have some impact about modes. So it was quite important. So that's the last step we did for this first year.
Yep.
Perfect. So let's get a little more practical here too, because as we all know, you need certain tools in place to facilitate any sort of token architecture and get these tokens to do what you need them to do. So Julien, can you tell me a little bit more about the tools that kind of sit behind these tokens that you created?
As we saw, we are leveraging Supernova for the documentation part. The good thing is Supernova is quite easy to just sync Supernova in Figma, because we are leveraging Figma variables from Figma, obviously. and we didn't choose, because Supernova allows us also to retrieve and export directly in Supernova, but at the time we were seeing Supernova as more a documentation site more than a design system manager. That's changed lately, so we are moving toward actually using most of the feature of Supernova. But when we set up this in place, we wanted to have a custom pipeline from Figma to the production. So we leverage actually some custom script in TypeScript and Style Dictionary, which is a wonderful tool to just transform every token that you want in every format that you need.
Just talking about that, we are using a script to create a JSON from our tokens, and we realized the script was made by the head of design from Supernova. After, in the end, we are using some exporters from Supernova without knowing it. So if you need a plugin to export JSON, just check it and check his work.
And I remember also something you told me, Thomas, that was very pleasing for you, is when we began to use Supernova, you discovered that integrating the token into Supernova allows you to directly consume the tokens. So we were able to brand our design system using our proper tokens.
Oh yeah, it's more detailed, but it's important. Yeah, the documentation is linked to the same token as your design. So when you change the color in your Figma file because you want to change, for instance, the primary color on your buttons, you can change also the color in Supernova. Just the details, but that's great.
And Julien, so kind of take me through the full token flow here. And what I'm most interested in is what are the initial sources of truth that you use, and then what are the final endpoints for everything that you're doing with tokens?
Okay. So at the fork, you can isolate two paths. The first path, which is documentation. So basically, it's Supernova syncing the tokens into Supernova from Figma. So, and the other one is exporting. So it's consuming the tokens through JSON from Figma. So the source of truth of everything is the variable from Figma. But we have two ways of handling it: either documentation or exporting it with a custom TypeScript script, which actually leverage, like I said, dictionary. And then we propagate either an NPM package because it was quite easy to do. And for Android and iOS, the first step was to just export the JSON from style dictionary toward AWS S3 that is consumed by the application. But we are considering moving from that to have actually a package on both technology and not just having the script. But for now, that's how we build it, because as you will see during the presentation, we tend to bring value, iterate after, based on the feedback and stuff like that, because it's can be quite easy to just try to do the best design system at first and just spend 2 years without delivering anything. And at the end, you are just 2 years later because people wanted something at day one. So we allow ourselves to just use the fits the tool that needs the context and just deliver value as fast as we can.
Just something for now, we are not using exporters from Supernova because at first we wanted to try it ourselves, but in the future we are considering to use it because it seems for multiple technologies it's quite simpler than to create our own way of doing it, so it's still in exploration.
Yeah, and if I can add on that, it's always the same. If you handle the custom or the abstraction, if the underlying API change, you have to handle it. So basically, this wonderful TypeScript script, if Figma changing the way they export variables, we will have to handle it. So if we just leave that to Supernova, it's much easier for us actually.
And as probably all of us know, no token architecture is ever complete or finished. There's always going to be new tokens introduced to fulfill different purposes within the product. So Thomas, tell me a little bit about how at the fork, what is the process like to introduce new tokens and what does that governance look like?
Okay. First, what we try to do is to design some way of work with designers and engineers in the production part. So what we decided is to never block the production. So if they want to create new tokens, they will be able to do it. The second rules we define is everything has to be built on core tokens. So if a designer wants to build new colors, new semantics, or new component tokens, he can do whatever he wants, but he has to connect it to core. And then you can create some semantics if you want to have the both modes, and the dark one, the light one, and you can apply it on the components. To do that, we created a buffer library in collaboration with the lead designers and the head of designs also. And the idea of the buffer is to provide them a way to push their component, push their new tokens, and be able to consume them directly without waiting for testing. So in this case, the individual contributor push a component. We have some reviews about this component to be sure it's accessible, if it works well on multiple platforms, We can take a look also about every state needed. We define like a definition of done for components, and then it's pushed. What is interesting here is, for us, it's like creating a backlog. So it's like what I talked before about the debt tracker. Everything that are happening here is something we should care on the testy side, because it seems it's something needed by our users. So it's a way to create some asynchronous work and let them work, and we just have to consume also this buffer library, ask questions if we have more questions about the usage, why they created these tokens, and if it's the case, we just have to move it to the right place on testy and maybe make some iteration if needed. The same for components. So we have one workflow for components and tokens, and we want to keep it like this because it's simpler to learn one workflow than two. And that's it.
Yeah, and if I can add something, we were really optimistic in the way that people will use semantic and core. But at the end, as we said since the beginning, it's also a cultural change. So we saw that people were using semantic for the value underlying and not actually the semantic that it reflects. So we actually learn and change and make sure that even with those rules and the way of working, we were double checking or triple checking the way we were propagating information and usage and helping people upskill on the new way of doing stuff.
And so outside of just introducing new tokens, I imagine there's also a kind of constant pipeline of changing these existing tokens and modifying them to fit a needed purpose. So Margot, tell me a little bit about what the process looks like to update these existing tokens and make sure that they propagate across the product the way they should.
Yeah, first, the tasty team remain being owner of this. So the designers have to use the buffer and are not supposed to propagate some things to other collaborators without having the tasty team that is putting the validation on it. But I could say that it's all about human, and we have set up many things to be able to support people and accompany them. The first one was all about the community management. So at the Folk, they are using a lot, it's an exception, I think, but they are using a lot Slack to communicate, even the official informations. Yeah, they are not reading mails, but Slack a lot. And fortunately, we
exception.
I know, so but it's cool. That the power of Slack is that we were able to create some bots. So, for example, if people want to aware us that they are requiring reviews, they are able to just fill a little form or to tag the member of the tasty team. We have also cleaned all the channel. I remember when I joined, I think we had almost 20 channels that was about design system. Everybody was lost. We had more than 100 people inside, and so we first cleaned all the channel and defined which was the minimum valuable channel useful for people. So we define a one that is testing news to communicate the top-down communications about the release, about what is new, about some new thing on tools, or sum up about the conferences Thomas is attending or developers are attending. We had another one which is Tasty Community, where everybody is able to require some questions. And we had to do some education. I didn't like this word, but do you remember at the very first site, people were coming directly to us, each of us, asking some question. We were losing many time just chit-chatting between us, like, I received a question from this one, from this one, from that. And for during 3 months, we were...
multiple people ask the same question because they didn't ask in the right channel, so we had to...
The changes go there. The first step was to ask everyone to, okay, your question is nice, can you ask it again into Tasty Community so everybody is benefiting from it? And so there was all that change, but once it was set up, this was a huge support, I think, to help people. So as I was saying, we set up some reviews also with the lead designers, allowing them to also have more ownership in the design decision, to have more overview. and to understand what is going on in every team. And also we set up another thing in the rituals and process is that we open recurrent open office hours. So every Wednesday afternoon, all the 4 keys know that they can book a slot to talk with the design system team, as if we were presentially in the office, and they can fill a little Notion page, sending up their Figma file or storybook, anything, or Jira ticket, and summarize the questions. So we had a little time to prepare how we can help them the more. And we have been very surprised by the success of it. It was part of our KPI to have people that were engaging into the open office hour. I don't remember, I think we were targeting like 1 or 2 participation per month at first, and it has literally exploded. So we definitely see the interest from people. So in the end, this is how we succeed to understand what was the update needed, and allows us to be very reactive. I don't know.
And the B2B part is not using the design system for now, so maybe we'd have to plan more. Yeah,
they didn't adopt it for now, but at first there was the one that were booking the more slots during the open office hours.
So as much as I love talking about tokens, we could probably spend the rest of the time just talking about that. I want to talk a little bit about collaboration, because as I was kind of talking about a little bit earlier, design systems don't work unless there's buy-in across the business, not just from design, not just from development, but across every part of the business. So I guess, question to you, Margot. So you kind of sit as an overlay or on top of the different product and feature teams. So how do you communicate with them? How do you get feedback? And how do you collaborate with them on a daily basis?
First, I can't say we were on top, much more aside as a servicial team for others. But that's true. At the beginning, people were expecting from us to be everywhere, everything, all at once. And it wasn't possible. So it's all about change. First, as I don't remember which one from you said it, but every time we were conceiving a component for a team, for the B2B side, for example, we were inviting automatically some heroes from the B2B side, some people from the data, some content designers, some UX researcher, some developers from Android, iOS, all the technologies, to be sure that when we set up the first foundation, the documentation, the needs the component will fill, we are already considering all the need, even if we accord on the fact that, okay, maybe we will not build all the variant of that component from now. At least we know that this is the first version, and tomorrow or in 6 months, we will be able to upgrade it to fulfill the needs of another team. So yeah, I think it was really something that was at the core. Teams was not so much used to collaborate at this level. This is something we have changed a lot, we have initiated a lot. The second thing is, you are true, I don't remember who said it, but it's cool to have a very well-designed system, but if no one is using it, it's just useless. So it's also, I used to say that design system is a really B2E product. We definitely need to do some UX research. That's why we also rely on the heroes. We were really hearing at their feedback, and it was important to set up, and we do it daily. They had the opportunity to give us some feedback, request some questions, as I said, and also we are launching every 6 months a survey to understand the satisfaction of people, what they are understanding or not. And about the collaboration, it was very important as well. When we set up the navigation of the design system, we invited all the heroes. So it was like a 30 people workshop. It was a little hard to manage, but it was so cool because they decided themselves that when we arrived, the marketing was doing his own brand book on their side. And we were trying to do a design system. And at the very first side, there was a kind of battle. No, this is my job. No, this is mine. And when we invited them, co-building the navigation with them, they defined by themselves that, okay, we want to have an item called brand. And when you will be ready, for now, it's just a link to our brand book, but tomorrow we will want to be also contributors from Supernova. So this was the first step, welcoming people. welcoming people and incrusting into teams, because we also integrate the rituals of designers. They have some weekly reviews in B2B, B2C, and we make the maximum to be available with Thomas and to attend at least 1 reviews per week. So yeah, this was a reciprocal process.
And if I can add, actually, we start with the marketing by integrating at first the link to the brand book, but the discussion with the marketing became later. We want to actually maybe merge, maybe not, but actually work closer together. So it was a huge things that changed in the relation that we have with the marketing. And also, Thomas just received a message, I think this morning, that the UX research is actually asking us also to work more closer together, to actually do some research on the component that we have already built or we want to build. And we also already start the discussion with the content design team in order, because they have their own guidelines. So we want to, since the beginning they are in the loop, but we do not share the same tools, and we do not actually share exactly the same way of working, but we want to bring them closer for, let's say, you defining a component guideline, you probably want to have the content design to help you define the guideline about the content of this component.
No, I think it's really important. I think it's something that a lot of times we don't discuss enough, is that kind of Venn diagram overlap between brand and marketing teams and design system teams, that there's inherently a kind of collaboration to accomplish the same goals, but then it also can cause conflict when it's this, is this my responsibility, is it yours? No, it's mine. So being able to navigate that and show value of a design system to a brand team alleviates a lot of that conflict.
Yeah. And if I can also add something on the UX strategy, know that we have more usage of the token and the components, and we have more component than 6 months ago, obviously. We start to also see the benefit of, we start to think about how we want to track the usage and also the adoption, because as we consider the design system as a product since the beginning, you have to understand how the user use them, and the informal or formal discussion that you have with people, it's not really scalable at the end. If a lot of people are using token and component, you want to probably have a dashboard on how much semantic token you have, how much component token you have, what is the trend. Does your semantic just going crazy, or does people just use semantic, let's say, I don't know, you have something called background color and it's used on the border property. So you want to have this kind of feedback directly and more macro feedback to how actually people are using the design system.
And so speaking specifically about developers, because they're obviously a core part of this whole process, question over to you, Thomas, but when in this whole process do you actually involve your developers and your development team?
Okay, in case of the fork, I was hired by Julien, so an engineer. I was quite happy because
makes it easier.
I build other design system for media companies, basically, and also before, because I was working on Supernova too. And the issue each time was to bring engineers too late in the process. So I really invite you to discuss with them and understand their needs, because every time we worked without them, we had some issue to have like to have a design system used by them, and that's a huge issue. And in the past, we had more than this. We had like technical constraints that make that we had to refactor every component. So it was more. It's not a constraint anymore. It was a debt, and it was quite painful to solve. It takes many years. So, from my point of view, it's not really a question. I know I had a huge debate about it, but for me, you should work directly with engineers and just find a way to work together. And I think it will change also the culture of the company to do this kind of stuff and avoid this perpetual conflict between engineers and designers. It's not always the case, but it happens. And discussing is the best way, I think.
What we are doing in the team is actually integrating engineer during the design review, but also designer in the engineering review or at the end of the development, because it's not just one way around. Like, you have to understand that designer is building something for the engineer, but engineer are making sure that what the designer has been built is integrated properly. So it's not just one flow. You have to have perpetual communication to make sure that everything goes in the right direction.
And based on our recent experience, when you will work on accessibility, you definitely need some engineers in your side, because it's definitely bigger than contrast and about colors.
And an accessibility expert also.
Yeah.
An accessibility expert.
Yeah, definitely.
Even with the tokens, I mean, from the very beginning, we have set up some workshop gathering designers and developers to align together on the naming convention, the order of properties, and so on, how it will be understandable both for designers and engineers, because it begins to be a common language. So kind of
we did some surveys sometimes. It's like, do you prefer this name or this name, and why? And people just create like a large spread about
The design system is very democratic.
That's a great also to have this kind of discussion. So from the beginning, engineers.
So I'm going to ask a more specific and harder question, because I think I gave you a pretty easy question there, and we can all agree that developers should be involved early and often in the process. So can you give me an example of some sort of feature implementation project that you worked on cross-functionally with maybe sales, marketing, development, that led to a successful implementation of tokens or a change in that token architecture?
Okay. So I have a video for this. I would say some time ago we were working on the homepage, the first entry point of the application, and obviously this homepage has to follow the new brand. So it was the first time we create a real page on our apps, And to do this, we work with the brands, obviously, to understand what they want to spread through our apps, and also with designers to be sure it fulfills the needs of our users. We worked also with the content designers because we have new components that appears with more textual information. We were working also with the product manager and engineers on multiple platforms. So it was quite a challenge, and we have a LinkedIn post if you want to see how many people was involved in this subject, but definitely it's like a huge part of the product and engineering.
And it was very strategical for the company, because maybe you don't know the phone by heart, but this is the homepage. So this is really the heart of the experience, the first discovery from the users. And to give you an idea, the first release from the design system was on the 16th of October, if I remember well.
Yeah.
And they have to release this homepage on December. So we had one feature team that was naturally our first early adopters, trying to work with the tokens, learning in the same time, defining the new identity, and so we were supporting them a lot. And that's true. That was the very first topic where we had marketing, data, UX, content, strategists, design system team, engineers, leads, all technology. It was a little crazy, but a success indeed.
Yeah. And the good thing about tokens is, at first we did this first screen, so it was our new screens with Tasty. But now we have more and more screen in multiple parts of the experience. So we had some feedback from designers about can we reduce this typo or increase this typo? Can we change the color? This kind of stuff. And because they are built with design system, we can say to them, okay, we will change the tokens. So you have to do nothing on the design side. You can just provide what you have to the engineers. The engineers doesn't have to change anything, and it will also apply to the homepage. So the team who worked on the homepage doesn't have to manage too many changes due to another team. So in the end, it's like reducing the decision and the discussion to create more consistency in your app. So it's what happens currently. So it's great.
Yeah. Speaking by experience, when we had Chili at the time, we also had the minimum. I'm not sure it's an MVP for token. It was just the core color, and it was not spread in every application, and it was not always up to date with the design. So really not sure it's an MVP. But this help the fact that we can propagate color, but the problem was it was not clearly known and clearly propagate in the same way everywhere. So we struggled a lot saying, are you sure you are up to date with those tokens in this context of application or not? And what we make sure here was that once we actually updated, it was really easy to update everywhere. And that's what allows us now to have the trust to say, okay, just play with the token, and then in a few weeks or few months we will come and then spread it when we will update the value.
And what we saying made me think about something. We forgot to tell it, but the very first irritant, the very first problem to solve at the beginning, when I joined, was a huge inconsistency between design and production, development that were in production, and also between technologies. That was, we didn't have the same identity between Android, iOS, and web. So the main topic was also to solve that depth. That's why we also hired some internal native developers inside the team. And this is a huge work, I feel. And the tokens also allowed us little by little, or at least allowed the team to build on common foundation.
So I guess last question on the kind of cross-collaboration and token subject. So over to you, Margot. Can you kind of just summarize fundamentally what design tokens have done to help improve how design teams and development teams at the Fork work together?
Yeah, it's a huge question. So I already answered just before. It has helped us to solve the main problem we had to solve, or to be in process to solve. And but it allows also to higher the quality level, or at least to allow the developers to have some red flag, for example, and they are used to work with semantic and naming the thing and talking in terms of usage. When they were seeing into the mockups or prototypes some usage that seems to be weird, they were able to come back to us, and it has automatized the thing. The other very huge power of using tokens, and I think this is more the designers that could testimoniate of it, is thanks to the token and the semantic, you are able to create in just one click timing. So here it's dark and light mode because this was what the fork need, but it could be some thematization between some background color, for example. And also it has allowed the fork to do something that didn't used to do, is to work more responsibly. So generating automatically, thanks to the spaces tokens, some very little screen and also tablet and desktop. So this is on process for integrating. But yeah, I think this is a main power of tokens.
Yep, definitely. I think for you to understand, basically, we didn't have a dark mode before, and the dark mode was even more difficult than that. It was the Android engineer that was converting colors on their side without much speaking with the designers. And I see Alban.
Yes.
But it was a real struggle because they at some point they bootstrapped the dark mode. So every time a designer was producing a design, the question was, what about the dark mode? But the designer didn't have any tools to create the dark modes.
Even not time.
Even not time. So it was a perpetual lose of time. Like, what about this? Do you think I should put this color or this color? And by just taking time, setting up the foundation, making sure that the color have the right ratio in accessibility. But actually, a lot of that makes sense also in terms of UI and level of information. Then it's just 2 clicks and everyone has the right content, and it was a no-brainer for everyone. And this actually showed a part of the value of the design system, and it was a huge helper to say, if you want to use the design system, you will just benefit from the dark mode just out of the blue, and this was really a boost for the adoption.
If you apply the right colors, the right semantic, but it works. And it's really useful. When we did last week or 2 weeks ago, we had an innovation week, so it's like a hackathon, and having this kind of basis is quite great because you can build faster without considering the dark mode or different aspect ratio. So.
I just want to be honest as well, it's not a holiday journey. I mean, we also experience many frustration from people because all this time we took to set up the foundation, we were facing many people that was not understanding what we were trying to achieve. So we received many feedback before the releases, like, but what are you doing in the design system thing, by the way? So yeah, we had to assume that for the first months it was being very reassuring with people, like telling them we are working on this, you will be invited to workshop, and we have at the moment to show an effect. So now we are in the I mean, not in the curve, but in the dynamic where people finally have access to it and see the value, but you have to be very resilient and patient.
And if I can add another disclaimer is, we didn't want to just build token and build every component and open the design system, so we took the choice to just build the base of the token and then iterate on it. And at the time we opened the design system, we had only token and typography. So everything that you saw, it's not component per se from the design system, but it's based with the material and the foundation of the design system. So we assume that when we will release the restaurant card, we will have a work to clean the technical debt, but at the same time, we can't manage the load of 20 teams just with one team, so we assume that we are creating design system debt as we go because they are moving faster than us, but at least they are using the right foundation, and the swift from using token to using a component that has been built by us will be smoother.
So before we open it up to audience questions, I wanted to wrap up by asking each of you individually, what is one piece of advice you would give to anyone in the audience or anyone in general that is currently either building out their design tokens, looking to improve their design tokens? So I'll start with you, Julien.
Yep, I think I said it already a few times, iterate. The more you bring value fast, the more you're able to have feedback from the user, the more you are able to build something that makes sense. So what we learned during the journey was just trust and don't try to have the perfect match, just move and iterate and learn on the go.
Over to you, Thomas.
Oh yeah, on my side I can say use some wow effect on your people, like transforming screen in one click or changing the aspect ratio of a screen in one click, because then when they show that they were able to do some upskilling as they wanted to do the same. So I think it brings value for the design system just because they want to use it. And if you create this attempt, it will be fun.
And lastly, over to you, Margot.
Yeah, I think I have to be transparent, show your strategy to the stakeholder, explain what you will do, because if you are clear, even if you are not already at the point, if they see where you want to go, they can trust you. For example, you define a very smart move is at the point saying, okay, we will release the design system, but we will go into a beta version. So with the first batch of users and then an alpha and so on and so on. And so once it's clear for the stakeholders, it's okay, they can trust you. And the second thing, but I already insist a lot on it, is it's all about a human journey. So co-conceive, don't hesitate to include people, even if they are pain in the ass, even if they are reluctant. Do the effort, be patient, and onboard them, because when decisions are took with people, it's pretty much more difficult to be a contradictor after, and be flexible, but keep everyone in the loop. For me, design system is really collaboration, communication, transparency.
Awesome. So now I want to open it up to any audience questions. So feel free to raise your hand and we'll give you the mic and you can ask any questions to our panelists.
And if you are not feeling comfortable talking in English, you can ask the question in French and it will translate to Italo if needed. So feel free. Really.
First, thank you. And I think you deserve a round of applause. who have a question? And I can get the mic.
Hi, thank you so much. I have a question about, I have the case that I have a lot of engineers that they have never used design tokens. So how you will to help them to get interested and get involved in the process of collaboration of design tokens?
If there's someone specific you want to ask a question?
Who wants it?
On my side, I think you should prove the value of it, and to do that, you should prove it will save time and avoid some inconsistencies. So I don't know your product or your project, but if you have some inconsistencies, maybe you should just talk about it with them and say, okay, imagine in the case, if we can find the great colors for these both cases, we should maybe create only one color, and it will be simpler for you to iterate on it. And token is about saving time and having more consistencies. So you should leverage this part. I don't know if I answer really your question, but
I think it's all about being pedagogic also.
Yeah.
Take the time to explain them. For example, you can invite them or give them some replays of those kind of events, provide them the book, just make them the will to read what is happening today. And once you have the interest, most of all, I think engineers are already in the mindset to factorize their work. So when you will talk with them about tokens, they will very quickly see the potential of it. The people with whom it could be more difficult, I think, are product owners, because they see it as an investment, but they don't see the value behind. And maybe the designers, because it will change a lot their ways of working. And once you have the interest, just with a little pedagogy, explanation, some wow effect, sharing some values and so on, you can provide them or ask the leaders to provide some learnings and upskills. And I will do a little self-promotion, but From Guys is proposing some upskills for developers about tokens, for example. They are managed by ateliers.
Plus something to add, I think you had a perfect example of how it could be a nightmare if you don't use tokens, so you can maybe share this. If you have a rebranding, and if the brand say, okay, you just have to change the old green to the new one, and you don't have any tokens, so you have green everywhere on multiple components, and you have to find every component one by one on multiple platforms, on multiple pages, to change the color one by one. And I'm not sure engineers will enjoy this task, as designers probably. So maybe having this kind of, you can use our experience if you want, but it was really take a lot of time to...
By the way, we have figures on that, because we experienced it.
Yeah.
So we know that the examples you gave, just changing one green for another one. Cost us, if I remember well, 10 engineers during 2 cycles to 6 weeks. And we changed manually more than, I don't remember, 20,000 assets or something like that.
It was huge. So
That I don't remember the exact number, but it was like, you don't want to invest this just like that. And without speaking about just a huge change as a rebranding, we tend to be agile company, and with agility came the fact that you want to refactor, change, increase something. And if you actually don't have the way of changing a change across all your company, all your product, it means that you will have to be sure that everything is changed at the same time. And token actually allow you that. So not using token will actually slow your capacity to be agile and to be efficient in the way you move on the market.
And when you see all the rebranding we had this year, like Doctolib, Decathlon, DocuSign, this kind of company, I think having tokens is an helper.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know which company you are and at which level we are able to reach out, but if you are not, if you didn't succeed to convince the engineers themselves, you can also try to speak with the CTO and the leads, because most of the time they will understand more the value or more quickly, and it have another good effect in that it will harmonize the process, the ways of working between the different teams. Because what I experience, maybe I'm wrong, but it's most of the time when you enter a company, they are using Agile, but doing agility, and every team is doing its own agility. So when it comes to use token, you are kind of obliged to align the process as well. So it's rationalized and save cost in the end.
And if I can add something, beside the outcomes and the risk, you can speak their language. Take some of their concept to explain them what design tokens are with their concept, like aliasing, which is a super common thing in development.
Yeah.
True.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question. Other questions?
Thank you for the really good input. I'm quite interested in your buffer library. How do you make sure that it's not becoming the Wild West, or do you govern that in any way?
Okay, that's a good question, I think.
We have a specialist here that can.
Yeah.
I'm witnessing everything. I'm not participating to it. I'm just witnessing the chaos.
The buffer library came a little bit after the first foundation, and it was because we had a need. We can't create. We are one team. We have multiple teams in multiple platforms. We can't create every component in the same time. They are consuming more than we are producing, so it became unbalanced. The first thing was to create a buffer library about the design part, and it was a little bit a mess at the at the beginning, and we had a lot of discussion with them about a flow of working, how it will be reviewed, what kind of component will be in it. Do you want to share every component to everyone, or do you have some local components depending on the feature? And now we are quite a workflow. People propose some components through Stack with an automation. So they say, okay, I have a new component, I need some feedback about it. So lead designers are here to be sure the definition of done is well applied, and this definition of done is compliant with testing. So it's creating like a real buffer between them and us, because the component is, I just have to copy and paste. Basically, that's a goal. Yep. We'll have to manage the activity behind, etc. But yeah, we have this side, so we try to reduce the worldwide effect. But we had also the technical side, and on this side, it's something we are still progressing, because it's different depending on the platform. Yep. So we have to manage it for each platform. So it's a cost, definitely, to put it in place. I think it's okay to consider it as a strategy if you have a huge product already in place, and if people are struggling a little to wait for new components. I think we trust people. I mean, we trust individual contributors, but also lead designers and head of designers to manage this. And we are not only the one who have some eyes on it. Yep. So,
if I may add on it, I see three kind of pillars, because this buffer library, to be very honest, wasn't our first idea. It came from the teams. And so we decided to be hearing and flexible and say, okay, you need it, no problem. But we can't be owner everything. So please tell us how we want to build it, what could be the process to maintain it, how do you ensure that you will not create another child design system. And so we set up many things. First, we wanted to leverage the role of the lead. So, okay, you are proposing, but you will be responsible in front of it. Also, it's not a free box where every designer is able to put whatever they want. They have to fulfill a definition of done that has been built by Gabriel, a brilliant definition of done, very clear, inspired from this engineer side, engineer world. So they have to fulfill this process and a definition of done, very clear, and they have to ask a review with us and to track it into a database, which is called inconsistency tracking. So we are sure that without having a too loud process, they have some constraint to follow. So they do it really in order to serve the design system and not to cook their shit in it. So and once it's done, the work is already pre-built by the team, and it's also saving time for the design system team in order to include it into the backlog.
Yep.
That's just some small important thing. We are using the branches and the versioning system from Figjam, and I really think it's something important because it allows to have a place to iterate, to have our mess, and before presenting it to lead and head off, they have to clean it a little, and if it's well clean, it's merged. If it's not clean, if it's not compliant, we miss some states, it will be never merged. So it won't be available for everyone. So that's how we limit a little bit the mess.
And if I can add something on the technical part, basically, as Margot said, it was initially an idea from the design or a need from the design more than an idea. And on the technical, we are working on it right now. We want actually to mirror what they do on the design in the technical part. So actually, that's what we do, even in the design system. We want to mirror the work and the way of working across the departments, to share the same vocabulary, to make sure that people, when they say, I'm using this material from Buffer, it means something in iOS to have something in Buffer. So we are making sure, or we try to make sure at least, that something is mirrored everywhere and they share the same vocabularies. And also, yes, it may be chaos, but it's chaos that we have put in a box where we have eyes on it. And actually, it's not doing that is just having chaos everywhere without being able to see it and understanding. And it's actually for us an opportunity because this box allows us to actually see what happens. So if we saw that 10 teams are actually creating the similar component and they're not speaking together and they just recreate a component that is close or can be rationalized, it's then up to us to just say, okay, we will take that, making sure that it fits all the needs, and then we will stamp the design system validation on it and propagate it through the usual way.
And we also upskill people in the mindset. That means that in the definition of done, they have to ask themselves, does this component can serve the others or not?
Yeah.
And if they have some doubt, they have the visuals, they can reach to us during the open office hour, like requiring from reviews. And as we succeed to have a kind of central place, we sometimes are able to be the bridge and say, oh, you are working in this new iteration of the, date picker, just to let you know, this feature team is also doing this. So maybe you have to work together, or maybe look in the buffer library if no existing component is not already there and could be suitable for you. So it's not a wide place in the end. It's kind of pretty much more organized. Yeah. We had a question.
Yeah, I think there's a question in the back.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your knowledge. You guys have a pretty modern design system and running stuff. So my question is around that. So how you guys manage to balance both this modern kind of color, vibrant, harmonic design systems between the industrial systematic approach of design tokens? And another question is are you following the same kind of design tokens for the marketing collaterals or website?
Yeah. So I'm sorry for the first part of the question. It's hard to hear you.
Yeah. It's about you people have some modern design systems, and I think these are some combination of color harmonies are different from the traditional design UI, I guess. So you have how we are managing to have this in the industrial process. To how do you fit into the industrial process of having and storing design tokens? How do you get this light?
I can take. You wanted to answer?
Yeah. Okay. On my side, on the design side, what what I did is to integrate what's provided as colors from the marketing part in the design system. So it's what we call core brand colors, and we have our core product colors. Some of them are linked, and some of them are not linked because we are not using the in the UI. So it's probably what you saw at the beginning of the slide here. This color exists in our design system too, and they can consume them if they want to create any brand material. For now, it's not the case because they have their own library, so they are working with their own material, but we did that to be sure it will be scalable for them later. So we can just replace their color with the new ones, and they will be able to work with them. And we have search, I don't know what to say, a naming convention with some synonyms to be able to search quickly only these colors or only these colors. So basically it's not so difficult to build, just to consider we have multiple steps. I don't know if I understood. I answered well your question.
I'm not sure it's visible, but maybe you can highlight something in that all the variant 500 are the brand colors.
Yeah.
All the color at the center.
Each time what we call the 500 is the middle of our RAM. This color comes from this palette. So the one here is linked to the one here, and we create just some tints. The only color we created, that's why it's new, it's small, sorry, as we created a new red because we didn't have any red in the brand colors, and it's quite difficult to build a UI without an alert color or something to create some delete button or negative actions. And this one is quite an exception because this one is based on this one we called Kale, and we saturate it a little and create a lighter version to have an accent color. But yeah, we have two distinctive parts. The idea when we are creating the interface is to use the most of possible the 500 ones, so that fits brand colors.
Yeah, and if I can add something, if you can just go to the next one.
This one.
Yeah, this one, perfect. Thank you. I read it in my mind. Yes, there is a lot of colors, and it's quite difficult to have sense in the UI, but that's why actually we spend time not just defining core token, but also putting semantic and meaning behind them. Because at the end, I don't know if you remove the red, because it is actually secured for the red and the dark, but we still have 6 quite vibrant colors. And how we handled to make sure that nobody was just using them randomly in the application was to define code for them. So some of them are restricted for marketing material, some of them are actually our main color, and that's exactly what we have done in the semantic part. So it was taking the core and making sure that the usage was well defined by putting semantic behind the token. So people were just, okay, I need this color for the primary button, or I need to put emphasis on the fact that this restaurant has the fork pay, and the fork pay color is this one and not another one. So by putting semantic, you actually allow people to just get the right color at the right time and not just pick randomly a color and put it in the UI.
And
if you want to read out the backstage of it, what we received the panel of color from the brand. Here we have automatically named them green and blue and pink, but at the fork they used to call everything with vegetable names. It's very funny. So the colors you have green there was called pea green because in England they used to eat peas that have that color, and kale and mint and blueberry and I don't remember, and we have orange and pumpkins and so on. So it wasn't usable for the product designers. That's why Thomas made a huge work. At very first sight we had all the, if you can come back just quick to the slide, thank you. During the workshop we did with all the heads of and lead designer on product side, first you had made the declination of all those colors. So you had the green in 10 declination, the kale in 10 declination, and so on. So we were with 30 green, 13 blues, and so on. That's why we made a workshop about product identity, and we asked the product designers, okay, now create the fork interface. And we we observe at the end that they never use the K declination, they never use the P declination, and so we ended with only the color you can see, so one range of green, one range of blue, and so on and so on. And when we realized that we were missing a red, we created with Thomas together, and the little trick to talk with the marketing was to call that red cherry. So we storytell the creation of the color like they did, and showing them, okay, we afford ourselves to create a new color. It is not our job, but we need it, and this is how we did it. And we storytell the thing exactly like they do, taking a vegetable photo, extracting the colors from it, making the declination. They just buy it, and that's it.
An important thing to consider is with the new rebranding, we wanted to soberify, I don't know how to say it, have a more sober interface. Yeah. And using their color from the brand is a way to create more emphasis on it. So basically what we said is also we create our own color for the product part, and don't worry, the color will be used mainly for the marketing part. So you will have like content that pop out from the UI. So it was a discussion we had with them, and now it's the case on the homepage. If you look, it's basically everything black and white except this marketing stuff and offers and materials linked to the business.
So I think we have time for maybe one more question, if anyone else has a question.
Yeah, it's pretty late.
Yeah, so, maybe not.
Is there any question? Or maybe you can reach out the speaker while having a drink, because they are still there right after. And I just have one last information. It's about the next event. So we are back in Paris in September, but we are going to Marseille and to Lyon with Ismail. We are pushing all the replay on YouTube, and you can find them on the DesignOps channel. And the last information is that Nicolas is also recording a very interesting podcast. They are in French, and they are called Les Chroniques du Design. Every week there is a new podcast about a failure story and how the failure was handled. So each time it's very talented interviewee, and it's very interesting. And thanks, and you can reach out the speaker while having a drink and eating some pizza.
And I wanted to say, before we wrap up, special thanks to the Fork team, and then also to the front guys for hosting the event, so we can get a round of applause.
Yeah.